And so this message is for you because I feel like there's a lot of people who, like, obviously, you hear a lot of information about jobs. Like, people always tell you, okay, get the other jobs, like, get a better job and all this stuff. But sometimes it's not that easy. And it's like, what happens? It's what happens when you can't get the better job? What happens when you're already exhausted, like, from that job? And I can only speak for myself. There were many times where I wished, like in the past, when I had some other jobs, that I used it to my advantage. And I don't think a lot of people do that too much. Now, obviously there's gonna be a lot of variables, with pay, all that stuff. But what I notice I see missing is a lot of times, um, people don't tend to utilize the job to make it work for them. Like, you know how you always say, "Oh, make the business work for you," but this is a little different here. The thing about it is the job could be the very thing. It can make or break you. A job can be the very thing that, like, keeps you in bed because you don't feel like going waking up. And then a job can be that very thing that pushes you to get out that bed. And usually it's because someone has some type of why, or they have some type of motivation of why they are doing it. So I just have some notes here. And so I found that before, when I used to have jobs, I would always get depressed in it. I would get mentally, like, just not in a really good space. I always felt like very down with myself. I would basically be arguing with everyone because I didn't like anyone, basically. And right. And basically, going to a job wasn't my favorite. And after spending many years, like over 10 years in business, and then deciding, okay, let me go back to the job. Let's see how it is. Like, I find that I'm not as depressed as I was like many years ago. And I think it's because of these things is I started to leverage, like, really leverage what that hey Nazia. So what I started to do is I really started to, like, really reframe my mindset around the job. Because let's face it, like, there's times when you don't like the job. You don't want to go to it. Or you're not feeling it, or maybe you're crying to the job. And I had to really work on reframing how I saw the job and what it was for. And I found once I did that, it got easier. I'm not saying like it gets all so super easy, but for example, like, getting a job really allowed me to have more time to be more illiterate. It gave me time to be, sorry, one second. It just gave me more time to be just more financially literate, right? Having time to, like, really look into my hobbies and what I really like doing apart from work, because I think there's too many people um who put all their all into jobs, and then, like, before you know it, there's nothing of themselves. For me, it was when I started to leverage, like, the benefits of what the job had. So example, like, I remember it's only because my therapist pointed this out, and I told her, oh yeah, like, I decided to do, like, career coaching through the job, because the job actually offers that. And she's like, see, you're making the job work for you. And I was like, yes. And then in that process, and you can see in another video I did, I got to learn a lot more about myself and validated a lot more things, which means I become happier. Another thing I started doing was really, like, putting a lot of things I enjoy doing first. So this is something that is a struggle. I'm not saying like, oh, it's gonna be super easy. But what I started doing is I got this ClassPass membership, and even though there's times where I feel like canceling it, I started using it for massages and exercising and all that stuff outside of work. And I find it makes such a difference because you're doing something other than work. And I think the key thing is you need to be doing something other than work. Now, recently, I was listening to Myron Golden. And if you haven't watched his stuff, it's so good. And he talked about how a lot of people, when they have jobs, they'll usually say, oh, it's just to pay bills. And then it stops there. And I was like, yeah, like, that makes sense. But then he said this, no, your job should be for you to build your income producing assets, especially if you don't plan to be there forever. And by the way, if you're watching this, like, Like, what do you do for a job, and do you do anything outside of the job? I'd be very curious to see like how many people here do something outside their job. And anyway, so back to that, and I think that kind of like really blew my mind because he said that if you're in a job, the whole point is basically you want to leverage that job to give you the life that you want. So especially if that job is not meant for you forever, right? You want to use that job so you can leverage it so that way it can create a life that you want. So maybe it's like for you, it's like maybe it's creating that course, creating that product, getting client, whatever that is. Like if it's a side business that you want to do, you want to bake, like whatever that means to you, right? And when he said that, I was like, that's such a great reframe, right? Because now when you're going to the job, you're not just like, oh, I'm just going to pay bills, basically make money, and then give it all away. Like this time, you're like, no, I'm going in there for my income producing assets, to build my assets and grow. So eventually, your assets can basically be more than, your assets can be more than what you make. And I find out when I heard that reframe, I realized I was actually already doing that, right? Like I'm doing stuff like this, like I'm online, I'm creating products. Um, but you see, like, and then also what, like the side effect of that is like you're doing something that you enjoy. I find that every time I would do something I enjoy and then I go to work, I'm in this like really great mood. But I find when there's days where I'm like, okay, like I don't have time to do this, and I just go to work and then come home. Oh no, that definitely kills your mood. Like, don't do that. I'm curious if you guys do that. If you go to work and then you just go home and that's it. Like, let me know in the comments. And so I feel like everything he was saying, like, just validated everything. And but the key thing is like it's like if you don't like your job, you have to be building something outside of it. Like it's not like I feel like life is way too short to be so unhappy. And I know a lot of people, there's this movement where people are like, oh, like I don't want to have anything outside of it. I just want to go to work and rest, which is perfectly fine. But don't complain about your job if you're in that place, right? And like what I don't see enough people doing is I'm a big believer, honestly, in having multiple income streams because you know how powerful it is when you have multiple income streams. And this doesn't have to be a business, it could be investments. You know, you start building your finance portfolio, whatever it be, or it could be a business, right? But I find that when you start doing that, right? When you go to a job, you're not in fear. Like you're not in fear of getting laid off. You're not in that sense of fear where you're like, oh my God, I have to do everything they say because like I don't want this to happen. I find that you sit different. Like the way you like stand is different. Like your confidence is different. Like you don't feel like everything is on the last string, basically. Um, and that's something that I figured out. Like that's something that I found out where it's like when you know you're building something on behind the scenes and you have things going for you, you're not, your whole life. Hey, Pauline, your whole life is not dependent on like that one job and your whole livelihood. It makes such a difference if you know you have everything's going, you're building your skills, and then you know like okay, whatever that job does, like they can do what they want because you know like you have something else to stand on. But when you have that one thing, I feel like the way your demeanor is, you're gonna act different, right? Um the right job, you have to love it. Like for me, it's like I can only talk from a business standpoint. So like when I do my business, right? Because I did it for full time. I did it for a while. I would say that was my job. You feel different because it's like the time doesn't go by. So for example, so when I worked in retail, I remember I hated working on weekends. Like I hated it. But then when I had a business, it was a whole new world, like a whole new taste because I was like, "Oh, I don't mind working on it." And that's what it should feel like. So like when you go into work, like it shouldn't feel like a dread or a drag. You should be excited to wake up for it, basically. You should be like ready to go because you enjoy what you're doing. Like you lose track of time. Like it's like when you're working in it, you're like, "Oh, I didn't even notice the time went by." But when you're not enjoying it, no, like don't get me wrong, you're gonna have days where it's hard, right? Like that's like a given. But it's like I had a friend that called it Einstein time. So like Einstein time is like the idea was Einstein, he would always stay in a room and then he'd work on his experiments and lose spend hours and hours. So we call that Einstein time. It's like when you're working on it, the time just goes by. Like you don't even notice it. Like you tell yourself, "Oh, I'm gonna work on it for like 2 hours," and then before you know, you look up, you're like, "Oh, it's been 4 hours," because you didn't realize it because you get so soaked into it. But I'm gonna be honest, it's a lot. It's very I would say it's very rare that you'll see someone love their job unless they are in their strengths. Like when I did like my Mary Briggs, like with the job I was doing now, like even when they analyzed it, like based on the words that they use, like it basically had nothing to do with what my top like skills were, top talents were. So then when we analyzed it together with the coach, he was like, okay, it kind of makes sense why you feel like it's mundane or it's very repetitive because there's no sense of complexity. I'm not problem solving. And so I think what matters is like you knowing your strengths and then you're bringing in your key strengths into the job so then you're more happier. But you're never just one thing. So it's like even if you're not enjoying your job, you'll need to find other ways to enjoy your life. So that way you can um what's that word? So you can not handle your job. But you could basically, yeah, I would say that I can't think of a word right now, but you could basically handle your job. I think a lot of people they focus so much on like hating their job or not liking the job, and then they don't do anything aside of it because I understand because they're stressed out and mentally they're just not there and they just want to go home and escape. So people focus so much on escaping that they don't realize you're in this routine, you're in this loop. So then you go back to the job again and then you're unhappy again. So you're just like you're going into this loop. And what people don't realize is that you have to then find if you don't plan to leave your job, you have bills, whatever. I mean, everyone has bills, but you know, you have certain responsibilities, and like right now, it's hard to find, which we understand. Um, you need to find other things, like other outlets that you enjoy so that you can look forward to it. So when you're at that job and it's driving you crazy, you can look forward to dancing a dancing class, or you can look forward to playing pickleball or basketball, like whatever you like, so that it brings that enjoyment back into you. So you're basically trying to make some playtime, right? You're trying to add some playtime in your life because a lot of people don't. If you were to analyze, I remember I did this like activity skill, and this woman was she what she did, it was like a instructor, and she made us actually like write out on a piece of paper like when our work hours were, like when you work, and then point out the times that you have playtime, which would be like reading, any type of hobby, whether it's cooking, baking, whatever. And it was very eye opening because I was like, oh my God, I don't like, because think about it, most of the time, right? We work like 8 hours. And then, like, if you're not doing anything at all, you may only have like an hour of playtime per week. And I don't believe that's enough. Once you start putting it visually on a piece of paper, you'll be like, what? You're like, no, I have to try to get that up. Now, you're not going to get to 8 hours a day on playtime. But like, even if you're doing like one little thing, like 30 minutes a day with something that you enjoy, whether it's puzzle, there's no excuse now. Adult Legos, like something that will like stimulate your mind and make you enjoy life, that makes it more easier to go to a job, will help you so immensely. Like, the thing is like if we fall into this like spiral of feeling always like, oh my God, woe is me, and you're in this pity party, it just gets worse, right? So it's like you either choose to do something that you enjoy doing while you're in that job, so that we have something to look forward to, or like if you have no plans to leave the job, you're going to have to find a hobby, like find something you enjoy out of work, because your identity is not only in a job. And I think that's where we go wrong most of the time is we put all our identity in that job, so then when we don't like it, what happens? You just go downwards pretty much, like you will spiral downwards because um it's like it's not only something that you don't like, it's on top of that you're putting your identity in it, and most of us do, and that's why you do other things outside of it, so your identity is not on it and your happiness doesn't rely on your job. And I think that's key. I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves for with their emotions to be like, oh, I need to be happy from the job. But what happens when you're not happy with it? So you have to find other things to make you happy in that job, right? Any questions? I'm very curious. Um, so like what I usually push myself to do is like just be very intentional. So that could be like making friends, making friends, like going to activities, like going signing up for classes. Like I recently had a friend where every time I'd actually do something, she always had like something to do, and I really love that for her because it was like she had like some type of side quest apart from her job. So like her identity is not in her job. Like she's finding other things that she enjoys doing, and I think that's key for most people. Um, and you just have to remember like and you have to reframe it. It's like you're not just working a job to pay your bills and give all your money away. You're working a job so it allows you to do other things, right? Maybe it goes to go on trips. Allows you to like fund your dreams, like invest in your like income producing assets. It allows you to buy the equipment you may need if you're doing a YouTube video, for example. Um, so like it's just finding other things or having some kind of outside goal apart from your job, because it's like you can't just go to work and come home. You're going to be very unhappy unless you're in love with your job. But even so, like your identity should still not be in it. But I think it makes a big difference if you love your job, because but this is not what this video is about. It's about hating your job, right? um but it's like obviously if you love your job, it makes a huge difference in the way you'll move. So yeah, but yeah, that's what I wanted to share. And you know, as you know, like I create these journals, like digital product journals, and it's usually around like trying to help women, reconnect them with themselves. And definitely look in the link in bio to get the self connection journal, because I think it will help you. And it helps you like take your mind off of the overall day. Sometimes like jobs can be mentally taxing. But you have to remember, like if you're in a job where it's not ideal right now, it's like you have to remember there's something on the other side of the road. And if you don't know yet what that other side of the road is, like make a goal for yourself. I don't care what it is, whether you're learning something new. Like that's that. All right. That's it.